Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. I see there's some folks still jumping on. We'll get started just in the sake of time. Hopefully, some more folks will join us as we get going here. All right, I think we're set to go. So, my name is Marco Briones. I'm the Community Outreach Specialist for the California Department of Justice's Office of Community Awareness, Response, and Engagement for San Diego and Imperial Counties. We're also known as CARE. I will be moderating today's presentation, which we hope will bring some useful information during this holiday season. Before we begin the presentation, I'd like to just share just a little bit about CARE. Our office was launched in July of 2021 with a goal to build relationships with California's communities, focusing on those who have historically been marginalized and underrepresented. We work directly to meet the needs of California's communities, particularly those who have historically been marginalized and underrepresented. We ensure that DOJ's policies and programs are directly informed by the needs of all Californians, and we work to develop knowledge and awareness among the public and community organizations of the DOJ's mission and actions on behalf of the people of California. This Demystifying the DOJ presentation aims to do just that. These quarterly presentations aim to develop knowledge and awareness of the DOJ's resources and programs, and opportunities to learn directly from DOJ staff and ask questions regarding the work of the DOJ's various divisions, sections, bureaus, and offices. Today is our third presentation in the series, and we'll be covering consumer protections. Today, you'll hear from two very knowledgeable experts in consumer protections and charities. First, we'll hear from Special Assistant Attorney General Eleanor Bloom, who serves as the top policy advisor to Attorney General Rob Bonta on economic justice issues. After that, we'll hear from Senior Assistant Attorney General for our Charitable Trust section, Tanya Ibanez, on the role the DOJ plays in charities in California, not just during the holidays, but year-round. After their respective presentations, we'll have time for Q&A. Please do share your questions in the Q&A box on your screen so that we can collect them and answer them after the presentation. If you have questions for a specific presenter, please specify on your questions. And if you shared a question in the registration form, they have been shared with our presenters, and we hope to address most of them in the presentation. Thank you for sending them our way ahead of time. Lastly, if you're joining us today as a reporter or affiliated with press, please do identify your news outlet if you're asking questions in the Q&A box. So now to introduce the first of our two speakers, I'd like to introduce Special Assistant Attorney General Eleanor Bloom. Ellie, the floor is yours. Please take it away.
Here we go. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Marco, I believe that I have unmuted myself and unmuted my microphone or my video, but please let me know
All
if you
good.
can hear me or see me. Okay. Excellent. Good morning, everyone. Very pleased to be joining you all today remotely and really appreciate everyone tuning in for some time this morning to explore the California Department of Justice's work related to consumer protection and charitable trust. So I'm going to lead us off today talking a little bit about our consumer protection work generally and specifically getting into the tips for the holiday season. We are a week off from Thanksgiving and Black Friday is coming up. We know this is a very busy shopping season and a time when we see a lot of scams and targeting of consumers with both scams and then products that may be quite harmful or trap folks into not positive financial situations. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Before I get into that, I'd like to give a really broad overview of some of the work that we do in the California Department of Justice related to consumer. So among the areas we cover, first is the scams and frauds, which I'll be getting into a little bit more here, as well as privacy and data breach. This is something I'll also touch on, also very important in this holiday shopping season, as well as year round, and a space where California has really been at the forefront, extending consumer protections related to personal information. So I'll touch briefly on California's Consumer Privacy Act and the regulations and enforcement that our office does under that, and some tools that you all as consumers here in California can use. And then we also have some very robust work related to housing, both for homeowners and tenants. And this again can become really important in the winter season, as well here in California as in the summer when folks are facing challenging weather as well as financial stresses. And so we have some tools available for folks who may be struggling to pay their rent, pay their utilities, and want to make sure that everyone has the resources available to them. And then finally, I'm going to touch briefly on cybersecurity, as well as protecting your data privacy, protecting it yourselves while shopping online, while conducting online businesses. So much of our lives are today. So a number of really important areas. We also, within our consumer protection section and our corporate fraud section, have a number of other resources available. So you will see on your screens right now the website for our consumer landing page on the Attorney General's website. I encourage everyone to go check out the resources there, whether you are a senior, a military service member, a tenant, someone working to repay your mortgage or repay your student loans. There is a ton of information on our website, so it can be a very good resource for you, for your family, for your friends, for your neighbors. With that, Trini, Marco, could we go ahead and move on to this next slide? And I'm going to jump into some tips for safe shopping during the holiday season. So first and foremost, I would say common sense is key. When we are looking at the kinds of scams and frauds that we see targeting Californians, particularly during the holiday season, the maximum that if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Right? So be suspicious if there's a price or a deal that just seems too good to be true. Do your research, be attentive to the details. If a seller is saying that they're going to give you something for $100 less than it shows up anywhere else, be suspicious. We like to see competition in the marketplace, but be suspicious. Do some research, particularly if you are purchasing online. Be cautious around paying for goods with a check or a money order, and be cautious of working with a retailer that is unfamiliar to you. Do some research before you proceed. So walking through a few of these things here, and these are also tips that are available on our website, back on that site I referenced earlier, where you can get a little bit more. First and foremost, as I said, be suspicious of a price or a deal that seems too good to be true. Items may be, if something looks too good to be true, it's possible that a seller won't send you anything at all. The item may be stolen. If you are selling something, beware of buyers who promise to overpay for something, but then are setting you up for a scam. So be cautious there. When you do go make a purchase, be attentive to the details. Read the fine print, check the refund policy, the delivery dates, the warranties, the tracking numbers. Make sure you understand what the company is offering and what the policies are before you proceed. Never assume that a store is going to allow you to return an item if you change your mind. Refunds and exchanges generally are not required by law. And so do your research to protect yourselves and those who are receiving your goods if you're buying. And then, as I mentioned, prior to making a purchase with a business, do your research. If it's a business that you've never worked with before, just do a quick online search for feedback, complaints, Better Business Bureau complaints. Check to make sure that the business has a legitimate address, and that there are no big red flags showing up online, particularly if you're making a purchase online rather than in a store. Similarly, particularly if you're shopping online, shopping with a credit card can make your life easier. This can be maybe a little counterintuitive. We're not encouraging people to go into a lot of debt, but using a credit card to make your purchases can be helpful because under federal law, there are certain consumer protections and rights that allow you to dispute charges on your credit card if something goes wrong. Certain credit cards can also provide warranties, or returns, or purchase protection benefits. Those can be somewhat limited, so don't count on them. But using the credit card at the outset can be helpful to protect yourself in the event that something goes wrong, particularly if you are shopping online. And then there's some information on our website about steps to take in the event that you receive an online. Credit card companies will also have this information available. Also, when you're shopping online, make sure you have a secure internet. You're providing personal and financial information. If you are using a not secure internet connection, that information can be seen by others on the network. So be careful, protect yourself there, and never provide your credit card number, your checking account number, or your social security number via email. It is just not a safe way to transmit financial information. And then, so those are, I think, some really important basic tips around shopping itself. Some other things to protect yourself in the event of scam. We are seeing a lot, as I'm sure everybody here has experienced, a lot of robocalls and robotexts. And text can very often be a way of ensnaring people into being hacked or scammed. So never open links from an unsolicited text. I'm sure everybody here has received them. Think twice. If it is a text message from a person or a business that you are not familiar with, do not open the link. And even if it is somebody that you are familiar with, it's okay to be skeptical and double check and make sure that material being sent to you is legit. And then on financing, I talked a little bit about credit cards. I know another common thing that we're seeing, particularly for large purchases, is zero interest financing offers. These can be useful, can appear useful, but there's some things to be aware of. First is that not everyone is going to qualify for that 0% interest rate. So don't count on it in the event that you are making a purchase. Do your research, understand what the financing restrictions are, what the financing conditions are, and don't count on having that financing before entering into an agreement. And then if you are going to pursue financing for a purchase, know that the 0% offers may just be an introductory rate with a very high interest rate to follow once the introductory period. So be cautious, do your research, and make sure that you're not counting on financing on certain terms that may not be lasting. All right, and then finally, something that I have up here and is going to transition us into our next year. It's good as you are going about doing your shopping, as you're going about organizing your online and financial lives over the holiday season. Take a moment to sort through your accounts. Close the ones that you don't use. If you are taking some time online here, take the moment to protect yourself. So with that, we can move on to the next slide here on California's Consumer Privacy Act. Perfect. So this is an excellent time of year to take a few minutes to exercise your rights. California's Consumer Privacy. California consumers have some really unique and important rights. this landmark law passed in 2018, then amended by voters, provides for new privacy rights for California consumers. And some of which happen automatically, a lot of which require us as consumers to take some action. And so this is my reminder to you, and a great time of year to go about doing that. As a consumer in California, you have the right to know what information a business collects about you and how that information is used and shared with others. You have a right to delete the personal information of a business, to tell a business to delete your information. You have a right to opt out of the sale of your personal information. Tell a business that it cannot sell the information that it has collected about you. And then you have a right to non-discrimination for exercising your CCP. So a business cannot discriminate against you or charge you more for exercising these privacy rights. So as you are going about doing your online work this holiday season, take a moment to dig in and delete the accounts that you don't use. Ask businesses to delete personal information collected about you. Understand what information is collected and opt out of the sale of your personal information if that is a thing that you're interested in doing. These are a set of really powerful rights and require Californians to take steps to protect. Right, and with that, Trini, we can move on to the next slide. There we go. All right, and so just in closing, as I mentioned at the top, our website has a ton of information for consumers across the state. We have information on avoiding utility shutoff. Just last month, we released a consumer alert about how to avoid water and utility shutoffs if you fall behind on your payments, and California laws that provide particular protections for consumers that may be struggling to make their payments. There are also some really specific protections for tenants in the event that your landlord is not paying utility bills. So I encourage anyone struggling to make their water or utility payments to take a look at that. There's also information on our website about protecting yourself, and to the extent that you have a business, protecting your businesses against cyber threats, cybersecurity threats. Again, going to all those tips around shopping online is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the kinds of cybersecurity threats that we are seeing, that our colleagues across the country are seeing, facing our residents. So I encourage everyone to take a few minutes to explore the resources on our website about how to protect yourself, steps you can take to protect yourself, your family, and your business. For those who are tenants or who are homeowners that may be struggling to make your mortgage payments, we also have some information, a lot of information on our website about navigating housing disputes, navigating landlord-tenant disputes, your rights as a tenant, and your rights and resources in the event that you are struggling to make mortgage payments. And then we have some population-specific resources as well for seniors, for service members, and others, all available on that website there. And Trini, can you flip on over to the last slide, please? And then finally, if you've got a complaint about a business, please file a complaint. The website address for that is up on the screen. It is oag.ca.gov/report. We know what's happening across the state by keeping an ear to the ground and also by the complaints that come in the door. So it's really important to tell our office, seek assistance if you have a complaint against a business. And then if you need legal assistance, there are some resources available through the State Bar, and for those who cannot afford an attorney, through Legal Aid. Websites for each of those is up on the screen as well and available again on our website. So with that, thank you all for joining this morning. I hope everyone has a healthy and safe holiday season and look forward to the continued discussion here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ellie. Appreciate that presentation. I'm hoping everybody can see me. I'm not seeing myself on the screen, but just to make sure here. The next part of our presentation, I'd like to introduce Tanya M. Ibanez. She is a Senior Assistant Attorney General in the Charitable Trust Section of the California Attorney General's Office. Tanya, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and thanks for attending this conference. A lot of people don't realize that charities are under the oversight and are subject to examination by the Attorney General. And the Attorney General has the primary responsibility for supervising charities in California. And in that position, we seek to protect charitable assets and donations and to ensure compliance with articles of incorporation and other governing documents. We have the Registry of Charitable Trusts, which is located in Sacramento, and that's where charities are required to register and file annual reports. And we also have the Legal and Audit Unit of the Charitable Trust Section, and that unit investigates charities, reviews the filings made by charities and fundraising professionals, and will review complaints filed against charities and their fundraisers. And in certain circumstances, we would be filing enforcement actions against charities. We can turn to the next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, charities have registration and reporting requirements. They have to register with our office every year, and they have to file annual financial reports with us. And the same applies for charitable fundraisers. They are also required to annually register and file reports. And in addition to that, the Attorney General has to approve or receive notice of certain transactions during a charity's lifespan. For example, if a charity is going to sell most of its assets, they have to notify our office before that happens. So what happens if a charity fails to comply with the registration requirements? Well, the consequences of failing to register is that the charity will become delinquent. And it may be suspended, and it also may be revoked, and they cannot legally operate if it's not in good standing with our office. So an organization's registration must be current in order to operate in California. In addition, the failure to register and file annual reports can result in the assessment of late fees, penalties, and cease and desist orders. So in addition, charities that are delinquent will be notified by the registry that they may lose their tax-exempt status. So the registry does work with the Franchise Tax Board and makes referrals to the Franchise Tax Board for charities that are chronically delinquent. So it's very important for charities to make sure that they are current in their registration requirements. If you can go to the next slide, please. One more, please. And then one more. I just covered you. So what do we do with these reports that are filed with our office? They are available to donors to review, to reporters to review. They're maintained in a searchable database, and they are there for everyone's benefit. The public can use that database to research whether a charitable organization is registered, whether they're delinquent. There's letters that have been sent to the registrants on our website. Their filings are there, so you can see how much charity is using for fundraising, how much they're paying their top employees. So there's a great wealth of information within the filings that you can find. And if you move to the next slide, this is where you would be searching for a charity's registration information. And this is located at our website at oag.ca.gov/charities. And that puts you into our charity website. And then under tools and resources, you will find the registry verification search. So if you just put in the name of the organization and click search. That will take you into the charities portal, and you will be able to see all of the files that the charity has submitted with our office. And I will say that in addition to being able to look into a charity's file, our office also publishes a report every year on fundraising campaigns. So all of the annual files that are submitted by fundraisers, we take those annual files and we review them, we compile them, we come up with tables, and we publish a report every year which details all of the charities that used a fundraiser, how much money the charities received from the fundraisers, and which fundraisers did an awful job. So the report that we have shows that some charities actually lost money with their solicitation campaign. And we're talking lost a lot of money. In other words, they spent more to have a telemarketer call you than they were able to get from the telemarketer after all of the costs were spent. So you may want to also review the report that we file every year. Next slide, please. So what exactly does the charitable trust section do? Well, we're in the business of safeguarding, preserving, and protecting charitable assets. We focus on mismanagement and diversion of charitable assets. And most of our cases are developed from complaints that are received from the public. Sometimes it's a complaint or a referral from the media. And oftentimes our complaints come just from our registry staff's review of the annual files. Our investigations are confidential, but you are urged to file a complaint with our office if you have any concerns with the charity that has solicited funds from you. And you can file our complaint online at oag.ca.gov/charities/complaints. Next slide, please. So these are the types of investigations that we conduct. It could be a self-dealing transaction where a director and officer is having a transaction with the organization. We also investigate complaints about loss of corporate funds or assets, excessive compensation being paid to directors and officers. It may be that a complaint deals with the diversion of charitable assets. For example, if money was solicited for one purpose, but it's been used for some other purpose, that would be a diversion of charitable assets. But we also investigate reporting and registration violations, breach of fiduciary duties, and we also investigate misleading and deceptive or coercive charitable solicitation and fundraising practices. We also will investigate criminal activities, but if you also have a complaint, you are urged to submit your complaint as well with your local district. Next slide, please. Next. So let me talk briefly about donation tips that might be useful to you during this season of giving. First of all, check the registration status of the charity. Go to our registry verification search tool and make sure that that charity is in good standing with our office. Second, give to organizations that you trust. Don't be persuaded by mailers that are sent to your house. Some charities have a big, huge campaign to obtain donors, such as yourself, even though they're losing money. And that charity may not even be operating in California. So it's important to review their annual financial reports and see whether or not they are registered and in good standing with us. Third, don't be pressured by telemarketers. If you do get a call from a telemarketer, ask questions. Ask them the name of the organization, whether the fundraising entity is registered with our office. Ask the name of the charity and their contact information. Ask questions on whether how much of your donation is going to support the charity's programs as opposed to the fundraising aspects of the campaign. Next, be concerned and watch out for similar sounding names and other deceptive tactics. There was one gentleman, not really a gentleman, but one person who decided to start charities using similarly sounding names as organizations such as the Red Cross or the Goodwill. So make sure that you have the right charity when you are making a donation. Look at the website very carefully. Also be wary of social networking fundraising. While you might have a friend who's urging you to send them a donation for a particular purpose, you may not get a donation thank you letter from an individual because they can't give it to you. And you don't know how much of your donation is actually going to go to the charity and whether or not your donation will be charged a fee or percentage of your donation will be paid to a platform website. Next slide, please. Also be wary about making electronic donations via text or QR code or a Square card reader. It's not that hard to get a QR code or a Square card reader. So always confirm that the solicitation is being made by a charity or that the person that's facilitating the transaction is authorized to receive the donation. And then finally, protect your identity. Don't give out your social security number or other personal information in response to a charitable solicitation. And be aware that charities may sell or rent their donor lists to other organizations, including other organizations that are not charities. So before you make a donation, make sure you review the charity's privacy policy to find out if your information will be shared with outside companies. So for more information about our donation tips, please look at our website at oag.ca.gov/donations. Next slide, please. I also wanted to direct you to some great resources that we have. We have a really good charities website. And again, as I mentioned it's at oag.ca.gov/charities. And when you go to our website, we have webinars that take you through the process of registering, renewing registration. We have the Attorney General's Guide for Charities. We have FAQs. We have lots of publications that might be useful to you, including the publication that I mentioned earlier about the fundraising campaigns. And we also have donation tips. Next slide, please. So that concludes my presentation. I'm not sure if we have any questions.
Hi, Tony. Thanks so much for your presentation. We have a couple minutes here for question and answer. I do apologize. I should have announced earlier again at the beginning we did. But if you have any questions, please go ahead and drop them into the Q&A tab on your screen, and we'll make sure to read those out. We have just a couple so far from the actual participants here. We did get a question if this will be live streamed or emailed or posted. We do actually post these on our CARE website. We'll go ahead and drop a link for that. And then on the second question, we did get, how do you get rid of robocalls and debt collectors? Ellie here was kind enough to provide a response on reporting illegal robocalls to the Federal Trade Commission at donotcall.gov, which is the do not call registry we were previously all made aware of. Other than that, I know that we did get, one more question here. This is a question for both of y'all, Ellie and Tanya, if you guys can answer. Is GoFundMe a good way to donate funds? I don't know if either of you are on.
I defer to Tanya there.
GoFundMe is not a charity, but it is a way of directing donations to charities. And if a charity is listed on GoFundMe's website and has authorized GoFundMe to list it on its website, then it's perfectly fine to go through GoFundMe. But I would also look to see, whether the charity has its own donation page on its own website. Charities oftentimes like to know who their donors are. And so giving a donation through GoFundMe may or may not inform the charity that you have made a contribution to support their charitable programs. So I guess the answer to the question is, I'm not discouraging you, I'm not encouraging you. It's one way to donate.
Perfect, thank you, Tanya. We did get one tip, I think, from Jenny, who was in the chat, about also using GuideStar as a way to confirm whether a charity's in good standing. That's not affiliated with the DOJ, but certainly I would advise to use all of our tools and any available to make sure that you're giving to a reputable source. I don't know if any of our presenters have a question or any experience with GuideStar that they'd want to add to that.
Yeah, GuideStar also has a charity's tax filings on their website, and they would also notify you or inform you whether or not a charity's tax exempt. You can use GuideStar, but you can also use our website, and it is free.
Excellent. And then this is actually just a question for both Ellie and Tanya, just because we are in the holiday season, not to just keep it to that, but year round, what's some of the more typical issues that you see charities run into? Tanya from the RCT side, and then Ellie on the consumer side. Just anything that we haven't shared that might be useful to folks. That might not just be holiday year round. I know you covered a lot of ground, but Tanya, is there a recurring thing that you see a lot of questions regarding on the RCT side?
Well, I would just say that, charities are struggling, and I'm sure they would appreciate your donations directly as opposed to through an intermediary. But before you do donate, do your due diligence. A lot of charities, they make a lot of promises. They're started with good intentions. They have a lot of volunteers that support their mission, but they may not have the experience that other charities have in actually providing programs that will benefit your community. So do your research, see what the charities have in terms of their assets and revenue, but be cautious as well, because sometimes you have huge charities, for example, and they look good on paper, but when you look carefully at their financial records, you find out that yes, they look good on paper because they're accepting a lot of gifts in kind, which is donated items, and they may be inflating the value of those donated items. We have a publication on our website about gifts in kind and how they can be used to trick donors. So my recommendation is that you always try to donate to organizations that you see are doing really good work in your own community. Those are the best charities to support. You see their programs, you see what they're doing, you're verifying that they're doing good work. Sometimes you'll have national charities which look great on paper. They're bringing in billions of dollars, but it's billions of donated medication that may not be used at all in the United States. One of the files that charities have to submit with our office is known as the RRF1 form, registration renewal form. And in that form, we ask the charity to separate gift in kind revenue from cash revenue. So that gives you a good idea of, okay, how much cash do they have to program, as opposed to how much donated items, which can be easily inflated in their valuation. So that would be my recommendation.
Great, thank you, Tanya. And then we did get a question from our registration form. How or who can we contact to report a retailer who offers 0% interest rate for a period of time, but instead ends up charging a customer or consumer double-digit interest rates? Not sure who would want to take a swing and answer that.
Sure, I will take that. So first, you should go to site oag.ca.gov/report. I can go ahead and put that in the chat as well. So I would say, first off, report to our office. And then it looks like the question is also asking if you can trust a company you did business with that had been convicted of fraud. That's really a judgment call for yourself, but I would discourage you. Marco, I think you're muted.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for answering that question. We had that question from Jeannie again, so I appreciate you taking that. And this question came for Tanya. Can you recommend a good platform to raise funds for charity?
I'm assuming that this came from a charity or, there's lots of platforms available right now. I can't really recommend one, but if you are a charity and you're looking to, use a platform, that's fine. They have the infrastructure. It might be a good resource for you to do. I would just ask the platform, how much are you going to charge me? How much will be deducted off of donations that come in? And what is your policy vis-a-vis sharing donor information? I know a lot of small charities, they love to use platforms, but then they complain to us that they don't know who the donors are. So make sure you have the ability to find out who the donors are if you are going to use a platform.
Thank you for that. Leave that open just a second. Was there any additional questions that we had? Don't think we do. If you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out. I was definitely the one that was emailing all of y'all to try to get here today. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me at marco.briones@doj.ca.gov. With that, I think we're good to start closing up here. If there's no additional questions, just checking one last time. I want to thank you all very much for joining us today for our Demystify the DOJ presentation on consumer protections. We hope this presentation was informative and useful to you. Please do keep in contact with us. You can always reach our office by emailing care@doj.ca.gov. We're planning to do these presentations quarterly and also recording them to have them accessible online on our website, which I did see was one of the questions that we had. Or actually, we did have one more question if we have a second to go back to that, and I'll go back to our closing. Is it correct that there's no expiration for gift cards, even if there's a deadline on the letter? I don't know if any of our guests are able to answer that. Not seeing, I'll make sure that we note that question, Dorina, and we can get you an answer afterwards. So going backwards, we are going to be hosting this on our website again at oag.ca.gov/care. You can also find the last quarter's presentation on hate crimes on the website if you're interested in watching it. If you're watching this presentation live, please be on the lookout for an email with the resources that we talked about today. And we'll also try to post them online with this recording. Also keep an eye out for information for next quarter's presentation on the topic and date. We hope you can join us. And take care, everyone. We hope you have a great rest of your day. And thank you so much for joining us.